consider the lilies, how they grow. They toil not, they spin not. And yet I say unto you that Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. If then God so clothed the grass, which is today in the field and tomorrow is cast into the oven, how much more will he clothe you, O ye of little faith? And seek not ye what ye shall eat or what ye shall drink, neither be ye of doubtful mind.
This is our kingdom, a kingdom of righteousness. Praise the Lord. Praise ye the Lord.
For all these things do the nations of the world seek after, and your Father knoweth that ye have need of these things. But rather seek ye the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Sell that ye have, and give alms. Provide yourselves bags which wax not old, a treasure in the heavens that faileth not, where no thief approacheth, neither moth corrupteth. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. To the kingdom of Israel! Yahweh, watch him! Yahweh! Yahweh! Watch him!
Considered superior to others. A government by the best men in the state. A governing body composed of the best men in the state. We're about to have it all. All right? Psalms 37 and verse 11. It reads, "But the meek shall inherit the earth, and shall delight themselves in the abundance of peace." That word for peace in the Hebrew is shalom, which goes into safety, soundness in body, meaning we're going to truly have rest, welfare, health, prosperity, peace, quiet, tranquility, contentment. So we're going to fully enjoy the planet Earth. We're going to rule and exist within the Lord's creation as we were created to do. I'm ready to rule the world, man. How about you?
Let the golden light of this sunset guide our hearts in peace.
Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Sell that ye have, and give alms. Provide yourselves bags which wax not old, a treasure in the heavens that faileth not, where no thief approacheth, neither moth corrupteth. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.
The ocean spirit dances today to abundance and joy and to eternal peace.
See, this is what we're hoping for. This is part of our hope. Not only that we are members of the elect, with fruits meet for repentance, like John the Baptist said, but from our low estate, because we've been brought low, even though we have this knowledge, we have this truth. Remember what it said in Revelation. I know thy works in tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich. Why are we rich? Because we're rich in faith. We have this knowledge. So our hope is at our last end, we're going to be increased. Okay? And if you ask me, the greatest riches right now is to be delivered by Yahweh Shai, is to get that new body that the Apostle Paul spoke about in 1 Corinthians 15th chapter, to get that, get that new body where we'll never be sick, we'll be immortals, like it said in 1 Corinthians 15, to be delivered from the coming destruction, and to be a part of Yahweh Shai's cabinet in the next kingdom. Okay, those are the real riches right now. That's what we want to get. Because if you get that, you got everything. I mean, you got everything. Okay, so our sights are set a lot higher than this present world. All right, as it is written, the fashion of this world shall pass away. We are individuals of vision, and the scripture said, where an individual lacks vision, he perishes. Okay, so we can see the future. All right, and we hope that we're going to be part of it, beginning with the elect.
All right. Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Rakakwadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers. And peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Kakadash, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners who have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah. All right. And well, we're going to get into this morning. All right, this morning news and prophecy, it's AI, resistance on the rise, the devil, all right, Lindsey Graham, okay, and more. Okay, so we're gonna go into a few things this morning, dealing with, the AI resistance on the rise, okay, because you have this growing population, there's resistance, all right, there's resistance to Esau's technology, okay, his AI, his data centers, okay, his surveillance, the flock security, and it's just an overall, okay, uprise, okay, it's an uptick on resistance to these things. Okay, now you still have, as we go into, you have a population that worship, this technology, okay, but on the flip side, on the other end of the spectrum, you're having the uprising, okay, against this technology, man. You see, which is going to force the devil hand, all right, to become more draconian, which he already has, legislation in place, okay, to persecute anyone that's against, all right, what he's rolling out. So let's get some precepts. Let's go here. I want to get this in Job, the book of Job, chapter 20, and start off with verse 22 and just read on down. Now it says, Job 20:2 says, in the fullness of his sufficiency, he shall be in straits. So when this devil, is at the point of rolling out this new world order, okay, we're starting to see him come in straits. Wars are not going like he wants them to go. Okay, people's acceptance, okay, of this AI and this technology is not going how he wants it to go. Okay, the prophets, are constantly, preaching his word. The elect is waking up. Okay, what the prophets are saying through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Al Shai is coming to pass. Okay, so the devil's in straits because he knows, all right, that according to prophecy, he loses. You see, and the devil has a short time to try to pull this off. So this devil is catching on every side. Okay, there's division amongst, these certain oligarchs. Okay, these certain nations, they're scrambling, trying to figure out, who's going to be in control of what system is better, and all sorts of scrapes that this man is in. Because when you go into scrapes, all right, let's get this word scrapes. See, Esau, Edom, the Lord will begin, to hinder this man in what he's trying to do. You know, so in the Hebrew is Yatazar. Okay. It says to bind, to be distressed, to be in distress, to be cramped. Okay, to be narrow. Yeah, because Esau doesn't have a lot of options on the table. Okay, with the American people, he's gonna have to bring about crisis. Okay, civil unrest. You know, to create desperation, to get compliance. You see, and it's gonna get to the point to where he's just gonna have to mandate this thing. All right, he's gonna mandate people to merge with this technology. Okay, and once he does that, this war, okay, is gonna get out of hand, and it's gonna destroy America. Okay, and the elite's gonna scary. You know, they're gonna be in those bunkers. Okay, and eventually they're gonna go into captivity. So this devil, he's in a narrow situation. He doesn't have a lot of options. Okay, he doesn't have a lot of space to maneuver because prophecy is on this nigga, so he's cramped up. Prophecy got this nigga cramped up. Okay, he's not in a comfortable position trying to roll out the new world order. He's in distress. You see, it says to be narrow, says to be scant, to be in straits, to make narrow, to cause distress, to besiege. See, prophecy got this nigga surrounded. Okay, you gotta deal with the prophecy of World War III. You gotta deal with the return of Yahushua. Okay, and you gotta deal with captivity, man. So prophecy got this nigga siege. You know, surrounded, man. There's no good option for Esau at this point. Okay, there's nothing good. The further he gets in this agenda, okay, the worse the options get. You see, so the Lord got this man in scrapes. Okay, so it says every hand of the wicked shall come upon him. Now, when you go into this word wicked in the Hebrew, I believe it's a amal. Okay, it says every hand of the wicked, which in the Hebrew is amal. So you go into the wicked, it says what? A laborer, a sufferer, a wretched one, a laborer, a workman. You see, they're working class, man. Okay, so you have this uptick of the working class coming against this devil, man. Certain city officials, you know, city council members, all right, that are against this man and coming up against everything that he's trying to do. Okay, you know, and then even these tech billionaires are able to override a lot of these city councils. Okay, they pretty much just bullying their way through these city councils. If they can't buy them off, they just bully them with an eminent domain. Because the devil, he's obsessed with trying to pull off this new world order, which the Lord has him on that time. Okay, because he has to get to a certain point before the Lord intervenes, which it speaks about that in this chapter. Job 20 and 23 says, when he is about to fill his belly, the Most High shall cast the fury of his wrath upon him, and shall rain upon him while he is eating. Yeah, so when this devil gets to a certain point, okay, which he's going to switch over the money, to a global digital currency. He's probably going to have this currency transaction. People going to be making transactions, okay, in this new system, and that's going to be like, okay, he's eating now. He's beginning to see his enterprise function. Okay, cash is going to be obsolete. The global economy is going to be operating under the new, let's say, digital system. Okay, so while he's in the midst of getting it up and running, okay, the Lord is going to cast out fury of his wrath, and that's going to be the nukes in return of Yahushua. Okay, because what we're seeing with this current war is going to go nuclear. We're going to see more nations begin to trickle in, and it's going to turn to a world war, and then eventually it's going to go nuclear. Okay, so while the elites are establishing okay, are attempting to establish, this new system, and they're going to get it to a certain point, to where it's functioning to some degree in the earth, okay? Or there's a judgment that's looming over this nigga, man. And that's the fury of the Lord. Okay, verse 24 says, he shall flee from the iron weapon, and the bow, or says, and the bow of steel shall strike him through. Yeah. So there's no escaping this. Okay, basically it's saying that he can't escape because it's like an ancient world, war setting. It's like ancient war talk, ancient battlefield talk. Okay, you might escape, the axe. Someone throw an axe at you, you might dodge it. Okay, but you don't dodge the next thing that's coming. And that just means that there's no escape from Esau's judgment, man. Okay, because they're not going to die in the missiles, but guess what? They're going to be snatched up and taken to captivity, man. You elites. You see? And for you everyday Edomites, man, over here in America, man, hey, you're just going to be eradicated by nuclear destruction. So there's no escaping the judgment that the Lord got coming to the masses, man. Okay, and you Edomites, all right, you're going to be put to death or go straight into captivity. Because you Edomites outside of America that survive, okay, this great judgment, well, your judgment is to go into captivity. Okay, and the rest of you heathens. Verse 25 said, it is drawn and cometh out of the body. Yeah, that's the missiles coming out the silos. Okay, yeah, the glittering sword cometh out of his gall. Terrors are upon him, man. So this nuclear destruction is going to destroy Esau's enterprise. Okay, what this devil is trying to establish with this new world order, well, this third world war is going to destroy every Edomite ambition, all his ambition for a new, all right, digital system, okay, to where he can play the most high with technology. Well, World War III, okay, is going to eradicate that, through nuclear warfare and the return of Yahushua, okay, with those chariots, man. You see? So this man's finna be in terrors. The man that has terrorized the earth is finna be in terrors, man. Okay, it says, all darkness shall be hid in his secret places. A fire not blown shall consume him. It shall go ill with him that is left, okay, in his tabernacle. Yeah, so if you're the lineage of Esau, Edom, the fire not blown, okay, the nuclear fire. You see, a casual rain is not going to put out the fire, okay, from the nukes. Okay, we know fire department. Okay, to put that out, no, it's just going to have to burn out on its own. Okay, and it says it shall go ill, which is bad, with him that is left in his tabernacle. Yeah, so the lineage of Esau that survives, they're going to captivity. So your tabernacle, just like the tabernacle of David, okay, which is that, the family of the elect, okay, the tabernacle of David, because we're all part of the lineage of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And the tabernacle of David is, the remnant of Israel that's going to be delivered. You see? And of that remnant, you have the joint heirs, the first fruits that's going to be part of the governing body with Yahushua. You see? So there's good news for the tabernacle of David, but for the tabernacle of Esau, okay, the ones that survived this destruction outside of America, guess what? It's going to be ill. It's going to be bad for you going into hardcore bondage. Okay. Verse 27 says, the heaven shall reveal his iniquity, okay, which is satellites. And that's why, as we teach, his word goes up to those satellites and is dispersed throughout the world. Okay. So the heaven is revealing this devil's iniquity, man. He's been called out on every stop, beginning with the prophets, man. Okay? And we're going to see how the world looks at these Edomites in this day, man. You know, especially those of the upper echelon, man. It says, "And the earth shall rise up against him." Yeah, because you know, as we know, Esau tempers. He's able to tamper with the weather. You know, he's able to do certain things and manipulate the weather. But then also the earth is fighting against this devil, man, as well. You see, because it's a lot happening that's beyond the power of Esau. You know, there was a time you looked at the devil as being just having this absolute control of. No, man, it's a lot of things that's happening outside of the devil's control. Okay, he's able to control a lot and influence a lot that happened in the earth. You know, the Lord gave him particular authority and access, you know, to particular things. You know, and he's gone further than any heathen. You see, but there's a lot of things that's happening above Esau's power, man. Okay, outside of what Esau got going on. Okay, and the earth itself is fighting against this devil, man. Okay, it says the increase of his house shall depart, and his goods shall flow away in the day of wrath. Yeah, so all the true wealth that this devil has, it's going to flow into Jacob. You see, he's hoarded up all this wealth. Okay, talking about these elite families, these oligarchs. They have the true wealth of the world. Okay, and they just been storing it up, and it's going to flow right unto Jacob, man, unto the elect under Yahweh, man. You see, so this man, everything that this man has built up from the Renaissance until now, it's just going to flow to the rightful rulers, man. Okay, because the rulership of the earth is being transitioned. Everything that this devil has done has been for nothing. It's been for vanity. Okay, it's going to be a this nigga has a very dishonorable name. Okay, you see, right now in his kingdom, you know, he honors, you know, these Edomites, you know, the Mount Rushmores and these old presidents and you know the founder and this. See these Esau, you know, he's able to have a legacy in this society, but in our kingdom, Esau not going to have, you know, a legacy of honor, man. Okay, he's gay. He's going, you know, reputation linked to the nation of Esau in the kingdom. You know, and we're going to go into that with this whole Lindsey Graham thing to show you how the earth responding to these devils that are croaking out, man. You know, and it's possible that there's more to that, which we'll get into it. But said this is the portion of a wicked man from the Most High, and the heritage appointed to him by the Most High. Yeah, so as we have eternal life promised to us as our heritage and our portion, okay, a righteous kingdom, everlasting righteous kingdom, spiritual power, you know, wealth, you know, to be fruitful and multiplied, and be able to enjoy family, okay, you know, the earth giving us having, you know, access that we can't even fathom, man. You know, like we have that look forward to more, but this is Esau's portion. This is what he's appointed to. Okay, his whole kingdom being destroyed, and this man having, you know, a terrible name in the earth. You know, and eventually he's gonna be eradicated, man. So let's go here just to show this uptick. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna get into it. Yeah, brother, we gonna get into it. Dealing with that demon. Okay, Lindsey Graham. All right, who's nothing but a complete demon. All right, when you go into that nigga, all right, when you go into that nigga life, go to that nigga portfolio. Okay, but let's play this just to show this uptick. All right, so now as we know that there's been an uptick against the data centers in America, now they spread to Canada, man. Now they spread to Canada. So let's play just little clips of this and then segue to another video.
That's Hamilton residents protesting at City Hall on June 4th after a data center was.
You see the signs. You see the signs. That's the sentiment towards what the devil is trying to roll out. Okay.
That's Hamilton residents protesting at City Hall on June 4th after a data center was planned for construction in their city.
Mega monster data center that was to be used for enterprise and commercial purposes. Their wording.
Nick Sergis is
on the Hamilton subreddit. I read it. I messaged my counselor. That was 2 weeks ago, and it's been a wild ride since then.
The protests in Hamilton are now part of a fast-growing movement across Canada that's rising up against a wave of planned data center projects. Data centers are physical facilities packed with servers. That's the hardware that stores and processes the information that supports the cloud, the global finance system, and AI models. But the ones planned for Canada aren't just your average data centers. Reflecting the lofty ambitions of Carney's new AI for All strategy to massively expand investment in AI data centers across the country, those coming to Canada are a lot bigger. And that's raising concerns. For The Breach, I spoke with experts and people on the front line to understand what's happening. I found out.
So let's go here. All right, because this is happening in Canada. So let's jump ahead a little bit to this guy. And it's just being called out directly. People are directly calling out what the devil is doing, what he's bringing. You see, they're calling it out for what it is. And if a brother can get that in Jeremiah 49 and verse 7 and verse 10, Bible Shah. Let's play this.
Publicly owned AI. They're not trying to create AI. Not trying to create AI that actually is useful for immediately for problems. They're trying to recreate the empire building model of AI, which is to steal everybody's intellectual property, dump it into this globe-spanning training algorithm that just burns enormous amounts of fuel and water in order to get closer to some kind of AGI. And Carney believes in this stuff. That framing is being weaponized as an excuse to create domestically what we already have in the US, which is a billionaire-driven sort of tech oligarchy that is enabled by the government. Mark Carney is trying to create a homegrown tech oligarchy in Canada, but he's also letting the tech oligarchs from the US off the hook.
For too long?
Yep. So he's calling it straight out. It's a tech oligarch. It's a technocracy, man. Okay? So these things are being called out. It's becoming common knowledge what the devil is up to, man. All right? And the devil, this is why he's going to go all out to try to get back control over the narrative, because he needs people to believe a lie. He needs to believe that he needs people to believe that AI is some type of God, some type of all-knowing, all-powerful, all right, creation that they come up with. He needs people to believe that he's more powerful than what he is, that AI is more powerful than what it is. He needs that lie to go. And he needs people to believe that this technology is for their benefit. That it's some type of digital, utopia, man. Okay, this is what he needs people to believe. All right, so we got another video. Let's get a few of these precepts. All right, this is the brother you call Hopeful 144, Jeremiah 49:10 says, "But I have made Esau bare, and I have uncovered his secret places, and he shall not be able to hide himself. His seed is spoiled, and his brethren and his neighbors, and he is not." So Esau is being made bare. You know, the Lord is laying Esau. Lord got Esau out there, man. You know, beginning with the ministry of the prophets. Esau was just out there bare now. Okay. Everything that he's doing is being called out, reported on prophets, man. All right, because we're letting you know exactly this is Esau doing this, you know. But on every level, he's being called out in some type of form, way of fashion. This man is being called out. Okay. So he can't sneak this, you know, utopia, you know, fantasy world, you know, technocrat. No, he can't sneak it in like he wants to. It's this fairy tale. He's gonna have to go draconian. Okay. Verse 7, this is brother Uriah, Yashala, Jeremiah 49:7 says, concerning Edom, thus said the Lord, is wisdom no more in Teman? Is counsel perished from the prudent? Is their wisdom vanished? Okay. Because now we see Esau, you know, he's backtracking. All right, he's becoming tacky than ever. He's sloppy. Okay. Things ain't, you know, certain things are backfiring. It's not panning out. Okay. Like the devil wants, man. He needs, okay, to do something drastic. He's gonna have to do something drastic. Okay. Because he's getting pushed back everywhere. You see, on every level, like I say, in the spirit, you know, the prophets, you know, are breaking down the deceptions and lies. Okay. Shaking the hand every day. He got to deal with the prophets telling him exactly how this going to go. And it's happening exactly how the scriptures say it will happen. You see, he got to deal with that. He got to deal with, you know, this uptick in, you know, say people are bucking against, you know, say the flock cameras, you know, the AI, training the AI. People are intentionally training the AI wrong. Okay. Companies are having to hire back, you know, humans, and because the AI not putting out like they said it would. Okay. Alex Karp, he's just losing his goddamn mind on, you know, all over these new news platforms. Okay. So the devil's gonna have to do something drastic, man, you know, to get this new world order to the next phase. You see? So let's play this.
Number one, no, you don't want China to lead in AI, not just to lose the economic benefits in the United States, but AI is critical for national security. The country that leads in AI is going to be the leading power in the coming century. Hell.
And they use that, you know, their narrative, you know, as if everything that they're doing with this AI, okay, with the data centers, with, you know, technology, the infrastructure, where they have to hurry up and get it done before China beats them. And they're using it, okay, to justify the acceleration of rolling this thing out in America, man. Okay, so they use this narrative of China being the boogeyman, which China is going to be an adversary to Babylon in these latter days to turn America to a desert. Okay, these nations that have these, you know, these souped up missile programs. Okay, well, the Most High souped them up to destroy Babylon. Okay, so China is going to be against this place, according to the prophecy. You know, and it's going to be to turn this place to a desert. No matter how advanced America becomes in the AI, this place still going to be a desert. Okay, All this is leading to Esau's destruction. So Esau just running to his own destruction, rolling this thing out. Okay, so let's play some more of this.
Washington's saying it's overblown, but here in rural America, we're not buying it. Last week, the U.S. Energy Secretary basically told us all that we're exaggerating our concerns over data centers, that data center proponents should fight back. He called the fears of rural America overblown. But yet, across rural America, farmers, ranchers, county commissioners, and even governors, they're asking a very different question. Let me ask you guys something. If these concerns are overblown, why are so many people pushing back? Why are so many communities pushing back? That, guys, is the question that's getting harder to ignore, whether you're in DC or sitting in Silicon Valley. And I think that they need to understand something, and that is that rural America isn't fighting artificial intelligence. What they're doing is they're fighting to determine their own future, the future of the land, the future of their water resources. In that same week, Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who tried to make Texas the center hub for intelligence, massive data center expansions, piping billions of water across the state to feed these data centers. He's a longtime supporter of data center development, but yet he called for prohibiting the development of new data centers in rural areas of Texas. In his own words,
pushing back against these AI data centers that are trying to build in our neighborhoods. I've made clear already, any AI data center even thinking about coming here, they got to bring their own money, bring their own power, reuse their own water, and do it in a way that reduces the cost of electricity for residents across our state. We must prohibit them from building AI data centers in rural Texas neighborhoods, and we must eliminate the tax break they are getting that must be responsible for funding their own projects here in Texas. We will get that done.
Guys, that's not some crazy anti-tech activist talking. That is a governor who at one point in time, not too long ago, right around the corner, wanted his state to be the AI capital of North America. I think that tells us something important. This conversation has moved away from internet speculation. It's a conversation that is now actively taking place inside state governments. But to rural Americans, this isn't about politics, press conferences. This is about the math of their very own survival. Most of these conversations actually occur in these areas over power. How are we going to get enough power to feed these data centers? I hear these conversations in my own community. They talk about Duke having to more than double its power that it's creating right now in order to power all of these data centers that are coming into the area that still don't know where they're placing them, because we won't know until they go, you guys know how it works. But the real conversation that all of them are missing, I'm sure the people in Idaho are not missing, or the people in Colorado, that story is water. These data centers are literally soaking up the water just to keep their computers from melting. Somebody asked me, well, doesn't it just recirculate back in? No, you have, with these data centers, you have an enclosed system of circulating water. That water is fine. It's the water used for evaporative cooling. That's the water we lose. And what's crazy about this is most of these tech companies would scream, to high heavens about climate change just a few years ago. They pushed the green energy agenda, which we now know that whole green energy agenda was just to create the power for the data centers.
If we do not get our act together, what we are seeing now will only get worse. The good news is that we have made real breakthroughs in recent years in substantially lowering the cost of wind and solar and other forms of sustainable energy.
We're going to change the way we do energy. We'll grow jobs. We will put money in Vermonters' pockets, and we will be the leader in America of the states in terms of getting off of coal and oil.
Can't trust a thing these guys say to you. And now they're pumping H2O into the atmosphere, which is a greenhouse gas, at enormous levels. These things are larger than football fields. Just put that into perspective. I apologize to those of you who have been greenwashed. I've tried. And here's the thing, it's not just that they're using the water. It's the fact that these companies can pay to take that water away from ranchers, farmers. There's no way that they can bid on it. They can take that water away from creating the resources that you and I require to live. We don't require AI to live. AI can be fun. But you know, the images that we play with, the videos that we play with, that's a very small part of this puzzle. They don't need football field sized data centers for that. It's actually technology that's been around for a while. We are given like the child's play toys of AI. But AI is far bigger, far more.
Yeah, because these data centers are for AI to govern the world. You know, for AI to control transactions, the programmable money, the surveillance state, the global surveillance. Okay, that's what AI. That's what these data centers are being rolled out for. Okay, this recreational use of AI. Okay, is just to get people to buy into AI. Okay, that's not going to be a permanent thing in the new world order. There will be no, all right, creating images with the chat GPT and creating images and videos. And no, that's for now to get people to buy into it. Okay, they need these data centers for AI to govern the world. Okay, that's what they're building out to. Okay, global surveillance, tracking, okay, and policing. You see, a live social credit, okay, system. Okay, so you have, you know, just this great awareness when it comes to these data centers, man. You know, and I'll put the rest of this video in the clip, probably play a little more of it. Okay, and then see with these politicians, a lot of these politicians, which we know, you know, when it comes to the president, you know, and certain certain offices, you know, within the White House, they're just all rigged, you know. But when you go, you know, to the lower officials, you know, they still depend on, you know, the votes. You know, we know ultimately the whole system is rigged, all right, and voting don't matter. But these people, they want these positions, you know, because they're able to enrich themselves in these positions, you know. So they know they have to play like they're for the people. You know, when it comes to, you know, governors and certain city officials and mayors, and, you know, so what's happening with a lot of these officials, they're having to flip and be against the data centers because it's people that's not getting voted back in because they're pro data center. Okay, it's certain people that's losing offices now because they're pro data center. You know, just some things I was you know, reading upon. Okay, but or listening to, you know, I heard it in a few videos. You know, I didn't read it, I heard it in a few videos. But let's see if he say anything else. We're gonna segue to the devil. All right, Lindsey Graham, damn demon.
Complex, far more, well, creepy. Look, they've got the deep pockets, they've got the capital, but let's think about this here because we have the roots. We have the roots in the ground. Let me explain to the US Secretary of Energy what overblown looks like on the ground. For the people who live.
Yeah, he's going to go into the farmers, you know, because the farmers are just, you know, like I said, there's been an attack on them for the last 80 years. You know, and these data centers just accelerate the destruction, okay, of farmers. All right. And this cattle rancher in let's go here. Let me see. But you had these cattle ranchers in, I believe it was Texas, Oklahoma. But he said cattle ranchers went from, it was 2 million cattle ranchers in the 70s and 80s to now there's only like 600,000. So you're talking about 1.4 million cattle ranchers have been, systematically, you know, taken away, from American society, which is all good. This is all good news to us, man. Okay. The destruction of America. Your bad news is our good news. Now, when you get to the devil, Lindsey Graham, all right, who's a complete demon. Okay. He was, he was a main component. He was a senator in South Carolina. All right. So, he's a good old boy, Edomite. And, he pushed, for all these different wars because South Carolina is home to a lot of the weapons manufacturers. Okay, for the U.S. military. Okay, so he got a lot of money to South Carolina to those weapons manufacturers, which he's able to scheme off of. But ultimately he enriched himself through bloodshed. Just to sum it up, we can go into the details of that nigga story, when he's just a complete demon, all right, and warmonger. Well, ultimately he got rich off bloodshed. All right, he was all for any American war because it was going to enrich him. Okay, personally. You see? So yeah, let's listen to how people responded to the devil, man. Okay, so let's play this.
Back in November of last year, Lindsey went to Kiev for 3 days for meetings. And published an expense report. True, Lindsey was staying at the penthouse in the Radisson, but for God's sakes, how expensive could that be? Well, over 3 days, Lindsey had spent $800,000. There's expecting the taxpayer to compensate him on $800,000. I guess the escorts are really expensive, and probably the Colombian marching powder is too. Whether Lindsey got was in that drone factory when it got whacked, we don't know, or maybe Lindsey picked up something else along the way. But yeah, you're probably right, because the media is he died from a short and sudden illness. Yeah, that's kind of heart attack. Yeah, short and sudden, massive cardiac arrest. Whether he died in the U.S. or not, I don't know. And Larry is right. The trip is pretty long. You're not flying out of Kiev. I guess he could have flown out of Kiev, but I don't think he did. Timelines don't make sense. But for the public in general, I guess they'll have to do. Did the world breathe a little fresher air and sigh a little lighter? I think it did. I think it did. Would it have been better if he'd become a good human being? Of course, it would have been better, and let him have a long life as a good human being. He wasn't going to become a good human being. He was a monster. He was happy to send anybody else's kids off to die because he was making money off of it. Did that money save him? No. Did that money save his soul? No. Did he take that money with him? No. Was that money worth it? I guess he has to decide on that. But that fact that he was a warmonger, that he was a war profiteer, this guy pushed genocide, the Israeli genocide of different nations, the genocide of the Russian population in Eastern Ukraine, and not only, he pushed genocide on the Serbs. This guy was a psychopath, one that had a lot of demons in his closet, and one that made a lot of money. And in the end of the day, you ain't taking it with you, baby. You're going out just like you came in, with nothing except whatever karma you're carrying on your soul.
99% of.
Yeah, man. This is how a lot of people are responding. See, this alternative news community, which know these devils for what they are. All right, they're not going with the propaganda. And see, they're saying, because they're trying to say he died in his home of a sudden illness. He just passed away. Okay, but then the timeline is not matching up, and we're gonna go into the video. It goes into the timeline and saying that he could have been off, by Russia, or Iran, you know, whether it's through some type of poison, you know, because he was just over there, okay, 3 days ago, in Kyiv, which is the capital city of Ukraine. Okay, so we're gonna go into a video and let's get what we always get. Let's get let me load up this video here. Where is it? Okay, yeah, I think they say here. Yeah, so let's get Isaiah 32:5 in the NLT. You know, yeah, and then also too, let's get Isaiah. So let's get Isaiah 32:5 in the NLT. And let's get Isaiah chapter 2. Isaiah chapter 2. Let's see. Yeah, let's get Isaiah chapter 2, verse 17. Yeah, Isaiah chapter 2, verses 17 through 22. Yeah, 17 through 22. And then let's see, I think that's in Job. The book of Job, chapter. It might be Job, might be Psalm. Let's see. Moment. Yeah, Job 21 and 13. Yeah, Job 21 and 13, Bible shot. Job 21 and 13. But let's play this. All right, and this is going to go into dealing with the devil Graham, which I believe, you know, they got to his ass over there, man, when he was over there, because he was a demon. Okay.
Shattered this weekend with the sudden and shocking death. The political landscape of Washington, D.C. was shattered this weekend with the sudden and shocking death of Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, a man whose name has become synonymous with American military aggression across the globe. At 71 years old, the senior senator from South Carolina was found dead in his Capitol Hill home on the evening of July 11th after what his office cryptically described as a brief and sudden illness, and sudden. But for those of us who have watched this man's career with a mixture of horror and rage, this is not just the passing of a politician. This is the end of an era of unbridled, bloodthirsty neoconservatism that has left a trail of destruction from the deserts of Iraq to the bombed-out cities of Gaza. The timing of his death, the circumstances surrounding his final days, and the legion of enemies he amassed have ignited a firestorm of speculation that refuses to be extinguished by a simple press release. Was it a heart attack brought on by a lifetime of stress and hatred, as some reports suggest? Or did one of his many foreign adversaries finally catch up with the man who so eagerly advocated for their destruction? Just days before his collapse, Graham was not resting in his constituency. He was on the front lines of a proxy war, touring a secretive underground drone manufacturing facility in Ukraine. The haunting final images of the senator show him grinning, holding a P-1 interceptor drone, a piece of equipment engineered specifically to kill Russian forces. He was in Kyiv on July 10th, shaking hands with President Volodymyr Zelensky and boasting about a new sanctions package against Russia. He declared that the US would be making a huge mistake not to partner with Ukraine in the drone space. Then, in a turn of events that reeks of geopolitical intrigue, a Russian strike reportedly hit a secretive drone facility in Ukraine just hours after his departure. Within 24 hours of returning to Washington, Graham was dead. The official story is a cardiac arrest, but the questions are deafening. Before you dive into the dark details of this man's legacy and the mysteries of his demise, please make sure to like and share this video. Drop a comment below, even just a dot, to help us overpower the algorithm. And if you value honest journalism that tells the truth about war and empire, please subscribe to this channel. We need your support now more than ever. Let's connect the dots that the mainstream media is too afraid to touch, because this story changes everything. The most immediate and explosive theory revolves around Moscow. Lindsey Graham was one of the most vocal advocates for the expansion of the NATO war against Russia. Since at least 2016, he has been pushing for conflict, famously telling Ukrainian soldiers, "Your fight is our fight." He envisioned the war in Ukraine as a mechanism to destroy Russia's military, crash the economy, and lead to Putin's downfall. He was the architect of severe sanctions designed to cripple the Russian state. Just hours before his death, he was in Kyiv negotiating yet another punitive sanctions package. It is no secret that Russian ultranationalists viewed him as a primary enemy. Consider this. Exactly 4 months ago, Alexander Dugin, a close advisor to Vladimir Putin, publicly called for Lindsey Graham to be flattened. Now look at the sequence of events. On July 10th, Graham tours a Ukrainian drone factory, a legitimate military target that is actively producing weapons to kill Russian soldiers. On July 11th, Russia strikes a drone facility in Ukraine. On July 12th, Graham is dead. The timeline is too tight. The coincidence is too glaring. If we are to believe that this was a brief and sudden illness, and we must ask, what illness strikes down a 71-year-old man with no prior health abnormalities within hours of visiting a war zone and angering the Kremlin? The speculation on social media platforms like X is rife with the theory of poisoning. Could the Russian intelligence services have administered a delayed acting agent during his time in Ukraine? It is a plausible theory. Russia has a documented history of targeting enemies on foreign soil with sophisticated toxins. For a man who was the primary cheerleader for arming Ukraine and inflicting a strategic defeat on Moscow, Graham presented a clear and present danger to Russian national security. His death eliminates a key drone factory visit, the immediate Russian strike, and the sudden death paints a damning picture that is impossible to ignore. But Russia is not the only player with a motive. In fact, the case against Iran is equally, if not more, compelling. Lindsey Graham was arguably the most virulent Iran hater in the United States Senate. He was a primary architect of the maximum pressure campaign, a vocal opponent of the nuclear deal, and a relentless advocate for bombing Iran back to the Stone Age. He called for the killing of Iran's leadership and openly advocated for military strikes against the country's energy infrastructure, calling it Iran's soft underbelly. He was a key supporter of the recent US-led war of aggression against Iran. The hatred between Graham and Tehran was deeply personal. Now consider the events surrounding the funeral of Iran's late supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. During that funeral, Iranian military operatives displayed posters calling for the assassination of Lindsey Graham and Donald Trump. These were not just random threats. They were public declarations of intent. Graham, ever the arrogant warmonger, mocked these threats. He posted a video of the protesters holding his picture and quipped, "At least they used a good photo of me. Judge me by my enemies." 5 days later, he was dead. Iran's state television openly celebrated his death, with anchors declaring he had gone to hell and calling him a child killer. An Iranian presenter was so overjoyed he said he had to read the news twice. If Iran wanted to strike a blow against the American empire and avenge the threats against their sovereignty, taking out Lindsey Graham would be a massive psychological victory. But how? The poison theory is again paramount. The Iranian military has a long reach and has proven capable of conducting sophisticated operations abroad. A slow-acting poison, administered during his travels would allow the perpetrator to escape while the target dies far from the scene. The fact that Graham was traveling, exposed to countless individuals in Ukraine and on flights, provides ample opportunity for a determined intelligence agency to make contact or compromise his food or drink. The motive is undeniable. Graham was the face of American hostility towards Iran. His removal sends a chilling message to other hawks in Washington. Push for war against Iran, and you may not live to see the consequences. Insert. Of course, we must also entertain the possibility that there was no foreign involvement, that this was simply the death of an old man. At 71, Graham was not exactly in the prime of his life. He was a workaholic, constantly on the move, known for sleeping very little and maintaining a relentless schedule that would exhaust a man half his age. He spent decades carrying the weight of his own wickedness. When you spend your life advocating for the deaths of others, when you slaughter of innocent women and children in Gaza, Lebanon, and Iran, that kind of moral rot takes a physical toll. The restlessness, the inability to find peace, the constant stress of maintaining a facade of power, these factors can indeed lead to a sudden cardiac arrest. Perhaps his heart simply gave out, unable to bear the strain of a life lived in service to war and death. But even if this is the natural explanation, it does not absolve him of his crimes. It merely closes the book on a life that should have been spent in prison, not in the halls of power. Let us be brutally clear about who Lindsey Graham was. He was a warmonger of the highest order, a relic of the Bush-era neoconservatism that destroyed the Middle East. He was a member of the infamous Three Amigos alongside John McCain and Joe Lieberman, pushing for the disastrous invasion of Iraq. He was a man who looked at the genocide in Gaza and saw an opportunity, not a tragedy. He supported the occupation forces unconditionally, opposing any reduction in military aid and claiming that to do so would invite divine punishment. He actively worked to shield the occupation regime from accountability for its grievous acts of international war crimes. He described the genocide in Gaza as a blueprint for future warfare. He pushed for the destruction of Hamas as a non-negotiable goal. His legacy is one of unmitigated disaster. He used his position as chairman of the Senate Budget Committee to funnel billions of American taxpayer dollars into the Israeli war machine and the Ukrainian proxy war. He was a key architect of the policies that have led to the current crises in the Middle East. He openly threatened to impose 500% tariffs on India and questioned Pakistan's credibility, all in service of his obsessive anti-Iran agenda. He was a man who turned fistfights into bombing raids. Now, what comes next? His seat in South Carolina will be filled, but likely by someone who is just as eager to please the military-industrial complex. The Republican Party in South Carolina is deeply pro-occupation. The successor will undoubtedly continue to support Israel and encourage foreign wars. The machine that Graham helped build does not stop with his death. But his passing is a symbolic moment. It is the death of a particular brand of American arrogance. The belief that America can bomb its way to peace, that it can shield its allies from justice while raining fire on its enemies. Lindsey Graham is gone, but the horrors he helped unleash are still with us. The wars he advocated for continue to rage. The blood is still on his hands. Even in death, we should not mourn him. We should mourn the victims of his policies. We should study his life as a cautionary tale of what happens when hatred, arrogance, and a lust for power are allowed to masquerade as leadership. He was a man who mocked his enemies and, in the end, whether by natural causes, Russian poison, or Iranian revenge, his enemies may have had the last laugh. The sudden illness narrative is a convenient cover for a man who lived a life that was anything but peaceful. The truth is out there, and as more details emerge, we will continue to follow this story. For now, we are left with a void that feels strangely like justice.
My name is Stephen.
Yeah, man. So you see, it's a celebratory spirit in the death of the demon, man. Okay, we'll just go here. And the brother got it. This is brother called Hope for 144, Isaiah 32:5. It says, in that day, ungodly fools will not be heroes. Scoundrels will not be respected, man. Okay, absolutely no respect for the devils that they're dropping dead, man. Okay, they're nothing but demons, man. All right. And what's being reported is nothing but the terror that this man caused in that office as Senate, man. You know, like I said, you can go into the details, but ultimately he was a demon that profited off bloodshed and terror. Okay. You know, he was just a upper echelon demon. You see? So now we're looking at Esau, and his name is already, all right, what scripture say, shameful spewing. You know, brother can post it. You know, Habakkuk 2 and 17. This is the Isaiah 2 and 17. This is from the beloved brother Quanawachi, MS Pray, always hopeful elect. Isaiah 2 and 17, it says, "And the loftiness of man shall be bowed down, and the haughtiness of men shall it says, and the haughtiness of men shall be made low." Yeah, so pride, and see, this is just an inkling. It's just like you said, this is just a symbol of judgment. You devils are finna fall. The pride of you Edomites, because he was a proud Edomite. You know, so this is just a symbol of the pride of Esau getting ready to be humble, and all this haughtiness shall be made low. Okay, all you devils is finna be humble in the time of judgment, man. You see, because you devils have two options, man. All right, the grave, you see, or captivity, man. Okay, and all you Edomites that die in America, guess what? You're gonna be born into captivity. Okay, through the survivors of the judgment, man. So the Lord got this judgment full circle, and it's perfected. It's complete. It's gonna be complete judgment. No one escapes, man. Okay, and you devils have terrorized, you know, the earth for so long, but now the Lord is getting ready to terrorize you, man, through judgment. All right, through prophecy. Okay, verse 18. Well, let me get this one real quick. For this Job 21 and 13, it says, Yashima tribe of Judah. It says they spend their days in wealth, and in the moment go down to the grave. You know, and that's the Lord showing you how powerless these Edomites are, man. You know, because they boast, you know, they want people to think that they some type of, you know, divinity, some type of divine, you know, supernatural, okay, entity in the earth. But wait a minute, nigga, you die just like everyone else. You die just like the common man. Okay, you have all this wealth, power, and authority. You cause all this havoc and death. You're able to tamper with, you know, I say with the weather and tamper with this and, you know, splice the genes and clone meat and all. But then, wait a minute, you die all of a sudden like everyone else, man. Okay, and that's the Lord showing that these devils, okay, they're nothing but mere mortals, man. It's the power of the Lord that got Esau propped up. It's the power of the Lord on the left hand side that Esau has been given access to. Okay, but when the Lord can strip that power away in a sudden, and these niggas are nothing, man. Okay, so jump down to Isaiah chapter 2. Isaiah 2 and 18, it says, "In the idols," it says, "In the idols he shall utterly abolish." Okay, so the idols, okay, and the main idol now is the devil's AI. You know, AI is the main idol of Esau's kingdom. You see, he's investing everything into this idol of AI. Okay, but it's gonna be utterly abolished, man. Okay, at the return of Yahushua. Verse 19, it says, and they shall go into the holes of the rocks and into the caves of the earth for the fear of the Lord and for the glory of his majesty when he arises to shake terribly the earth. Yeah, these elites, these so powerful elites, okay, are gonna be what? Running and scaring, man. Wait a minute, I thought you was a power. Okay, I thought you can replace the Most High. You see, I thought you was a God. Was you running in the cave? Okay. See, the fraud is up, man. Okay, and you devils, the Lord is pulling your cards, man. Okay, Isaiah 2 and 20 says, "In that day a man shall cast his idols of silver and his idols of gold, which they made, each one for himself to worship, to the noise, all right, to the moles and to the bats, okay, to go into the cliffs of the rocks and into the tops of the ragged rocks, for the fear, okay, of the Lord Yahweh by Shem Al Shah, and for the glory of his majesty when he arises to shake terribly the earth. Yeah, because this nuclear destruction is gonna be rocking the earth to and fro. They're gonna be in them caves, they're gonna be in them underground bunkers, them underground cities, and the earth gonna be rocking, man. They're not gonna be in there chilling in them underground in them bunkers neither, man. The earth gonna be rocking, man. Okay, so they gonna be in there, they gonna survive, man. But hey, it's gonna be rocking down there, man. They gonna feel power in that day. They gonna feel what real power is in that day. Okay, not no blowing up cell phones and these little gimmicks that they be doing and boast like they got real power. No, they're gonna feel real power in that day. Okay, and this verse 22. It's an NLT. It said, "Don't put your trust in mere humans. They are as frail as breath. What good are they, man?" So yeah, Esau frail as hell, man. Feet fragile as hell, man. But got himself hyped up like he's gonna run the world. Okay, nah, man. The Lord finna really get active with Esau, man. He's gonna use Esau for judgment. On the left hand side. To bring about civil unrest, because Esau really got to do a number in America. It's really his last hoorah. The Lord's going to allow Esau, all right, to wreak havoc to American citizens, man. Okay? And then the Lord really going to get at Esau, man. So this Habakkuk 2 and 16, and brother Yashima, tribe of Judah, it said, "Thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. The cup of the Lord's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing shall be on thy glory." So shameful spewing shall be on thy glory. Okay? So this devil, he's paraded himself around the earth as the standard of righteousness and, morality. And nah, man, but when you really bring out the real behind, all right, these devils, you see, man, all these devils have a shameful spewing. Okay, have a shameful portfolio, man. When you go into the life of these Edomites, man. So yeah, that's the end. Yeah, I guess we'll leave it there. And also too, let me see before we close out. All right. And just real quick to this sister of all, Yahweh, it's a beautiful thing that you're watching and being edified. You're being consistent. Lord will, that you're learning, and the Lord have mercy on you. But on the comment board, you gotta stay in order. Outbursts, certain things, every thought that comes to your mind don't have to be a comment. So just chill, learn, and grow. May the Lord have mercy on you. Just these outbursts, chill, it's good, But anyway, Lord will you brothers and you sisters edified till next time I say shalom.